Tonight, we're going to travel way back in time, all the way to the sunny land of ancient Egypt. Imagine golden sands stretching as far as you can see, a great river called the Nile sparkling under the sun, and giant pyramids touching the sky. In this amazing land, there lived a young boy who was also a king. His name was Tutankhamun, but we can call him King Tut for short. Now, you might think being a king is all about wearing a shiny crown and telling people what to do, but for King Tut, it was a little different. He became king when he was only 9 years old. That's probably just a little older than some of you. Instead of spending his days playing hide and seek in the palace gardens, he had very important jobs to do. He had to learn how to be a good leader for his whole kingdom. King Tut lived in a grand palace with tall pillars painted with beautiful pictures of gods, animals, and brave heroes. His life was filled with fancy ceremonies and important meetings. But even with all his royal duties, King Tut was still a curious boy. He loved learning about his kingdom. He would ask his teachers and advisors all sorts of questions. Why does the Nile River flood every year? He'd wonder, what are the stars telling us tonight? His curiosity was as big as the pyramids. One of his favorite things to do was to look at the treasures that were all around him. There were chests filled with sparkling jewels, golden chariots that gleamed in the sun, and even board games carved from ivory. But Tutankhamun wasn't just interested in how shiny they were. He wanted to know the story behind each object. Who made this beautiful necklace? What battles did this chariot race in? Every item held a secret, a piece of his country's history, and he wanted to learn them all. As a king, Tutankhamun had a very important mission. His father had made some big changes in Egypt that many people didn't like. He had told them to worship a new god and close the old temples. When Tut became king, his advisors told him it was his job to make things right again. He had to be a leader who listened to his people and brought back the traditions they loved. This was a huge responsibility for a young boy. But King Tut was brave. He decided to reopen the old temples. He wanted everyone in his kingdom to feel happy and connected to their history again. He announced that the people could go back to worshiping the gods they had known and loved for centuries. Imagine the celebration in the streets. People were so happy that their young king was bringing back peace and harmony to the land of Egypt. This showed everyone that even though he was young, he was a wise and caring leader. King Tut also loved nature. He enjoyed riding his chariot across the desert sands, feeling the wind in his hair. He was a skilled archer and would practice shooting arrows with his friends. The palace gardens were his special sanctuary, filled with shady palm trees, sweet-smelling flowers, and ponds full of fish and lotus blossoms. He would spend hours there, just watching the world and thinking. It was in these quiet moments that he could be a boy, not just a king. He learned that a good leader needs time to be quiet and think, to understand the world and the people he leads. One of his greatest projects was helping to build and decorate beautiful temples. He wanted to make sure the homes of the gods were filled with amazing art. He ordered his best artists and craftsmen to carve beautiful stories into the stone walls and paint them with bright colors. These pictures told the tales of the gods and the pharaohs, so that people for generations to come would know the stories of Egypt. Through this, King Tut showed his leadership not with loud commands, but with a love for beauty and a desire to preserve his culture. Sadly, King Tut's time as king was not very long. He passed away when he was still a young man, only about 19 years old. Everyone in Egypt was very sad to lose their boy king. They gave him a magnificent funeral and placed him in a special tomb in a hidden valley called the Valley of the Kings. His tomb was filled with all the amazing treasures he loved in life, so he could have them in the afterlife. There were golden beds, his royal chariot, his favorite games, and even statues to protect him. And then, for a very, very long time, the world forgot about King Tut. His tomb was hidden by sand and rock, and his story faded into history. For thousands of years, nobody knew where he was. But then, about 100 years ago, a determined archaeologist from England named Howard Carter came to Egypt. He had heard stories of a lost boy king and was convinced he could find his tomb. He searched for years and years. It was hard work under the hot Egyptian sun. Many people told him to give up, that there was nothing left to find. But Howard Carter was curious and he was persistent, just like King Tut himself. And then, one amazing day in 1922, one of his workers found a step hidden under the sand. They dug, and soon they found a whole staircase leading down to a sealed door. Howard Carter's heart was pounding. He carefully made a small hole in the door, lit a candle, and peered inside. His friend asked, "Can you see anything?" And Carter famously replied, "Yes, wonderful things." Inside, it was like stepping back in time. The tomb was packed with all the treasures that had been buried with King Tut 3,000 years before. Everything was shining and golden, perfectly preserved. The world was astonished. The discovery of King Tut's tomb was one of the greatest discoveries ever made. It taught us so much about ancient Egypt and about the life of the boy king. So, what can we learn from the story of King Tut? We learn that you're never too young to be a leader. Leadership isn't about being bossy. It's about caring for others, listening, and doing what's right to bring people together. And just as important, we learn about the power of curiosity. King Tut's curiosity helped him become a wise ruler. Howard Carter's curiosity led him to an incredible discovery that shared Tut's story with the whole world. So as you drift off to sleep tonight, dream of golden sands and sparkling treasures. Remember the boy king who was both a leader and a curious explorer. And remember that your own curiosity is a superpower. It can help you learn, discover, and maybe even change the world one day. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and never stop wondering about the amazing world around you. Good night, little explorers. Sleep well, and may your dreams be filled with wonderful adventures. Thank you for joining our story time tonight. Don't forget to join us again for another journey into the past. Sweet dreams.